Hey friends, welcome back. In this video I am going to share with you guys some wonderful recipes that you can add to your Super Bowl party. And so the first thing I'm going to start with is chicken, or Salsa Verde chicken I should say. You're just going to put chicken in a crock pot. It can be frozen or fresh, just depending on which one you use will determine how long you need to cook it. And just 1 jar of Salsa Verde. Now typically I use frozen chicken breast just because all of my meat comes from Butcher Box, so it comes in frozen. So instead of taking the time to thaw it, then putting it in the crock pot, I will just open it up, drop it in, and then pour the jar of Salsa Verde over the top of it. And then I will let that cook on high for 6 hours if it's frozen. And so then I will check it. Most of the time it doesn't need to go longer than 6 hours, and sometimes it does, but usually 6 hours is good. Now if your chicken is fresh, just cook it for 4 hours on high and you should be good to go. So we're going to go ahead and get started on some of the other prep while that chicken is cooking. I'll be doing some things today. Okay, so now that we've got the chicken going, what we're going to start to work on is getting the water boiling for the yuca fries. I'm going to share with you guys how I make those. And then after that, the guacamole sauce that goes with it. Those are going to be in place of French fries. And I'll go into more of that later, but we need to put together the cheese ball because now you can do it an hour or two ahead of time. I like to do it the day before. It just gives it more time for the flavors to come together. So we're going to go ahead and put that together now so we can get that done. And then while we're doing that, hopefully the water will start boiling for the yuca. Okay, so to the bowl, you're going to want to add 2 blocks of cream cheese, and you want them to be at room temperature. It just helps everything blend together a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and get the 2 blocks in here. Now this recipe, and I will make sure to link the original recipe below, does actually call for bacon in it, but a friend of ours that is coming is a vegetarian, and so I am not going to put the bacon in there, but just know that you absolutely could. But we've done it without it in the past. We've made this before and it was a huge hit, so it's really up to you whether or not you want to add in the bacon. Okay, there we go. Now, and I am using full fat cream cheese. If you need it to be lower fat, obviously you can adjust as you need to. It will alter the flavor a little bit, but I know some people don't want full fat in there. So 2 blocks, not 2 pounds, I was going to say 2 pounds, 2 blocks of cream cheese. This is going to be a ½ cup of finely shredded pepper jack cheese, and I just grate this myself. I prefer, if I can, to use full blocks and grate it. So you just want the fine grate on your grater you have, because what that does is it helps it all blend together and it spreads out more evenly. Now to this, we're also going to add in 1 cup of finely grated cheddar cheese. All right. We're going to add in a 1/4 cup of sour cream. And then I'm going to be adding in 2 tablespoons of chopped green onions. I've already measured these, so these are good to go. Let's get this out of the way here. And then we're also going to be adding in 1 ranch pack. I just have this Walmart brand, but you can use any brand that you like, but you want to do the dry ranch pack. Sprinkle that in there. You're also going to be adding in garlic as well, and it's a ½ teaspoon. And then again, if you were going to be adding in bacon, you would add it in at this point, but we're going to leave that out just again because I want my friend to be able to enjoy as much as she can when she comes. I usually try to alternate a few things or change them up a little bit, just so that way she can enjoy them as well. So we're going to go ahead and take the hand mixer and get this all blended together. All right, and that is pretty much it for that one. To mix it up, all you have to do is just get the flavors all mixed together. Oh, there we go. So I'm just gonna clean these out real quick, and then I'm gonna get the plastic wrap and we're gonna shape this into a ball. And then that will, it'll go in the fridge, and we'll leave it till tomorrow till we coat the outside. What I did ahead of time is actually grate the other 2 tablespoons of cheese, and probably actually a little bit more than 2 tablespoons, and then the 2 tablespoons of green onions, and put it in a bag. So that way tomorrow we don't have to worry about it. It'll be done. We do have one more step for that bag, but we'll get to that in just a moment. We're going to go ahead and get this shaped together. Let me clean this up. Okay, so I've got my plastic wrap. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull some out. Touch more. Like that. I'm going to put this mixture on top of the plastic wrap. It smells so good. You can really smell the ranch and the green onion. Now, if you don't like green onion, you can obviously always omit that and just do it with the ranch and the cheese, but it is really good. So go ahead and get that on there. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this over a little bit like this, and then I'm going to start, that way I can move it. And I'm just going to start to shape it with the plastic wrap. Just kind of pull it together like this, and then I'm going to unwrap it just to make sure that I'm not accidentally getting the plastic wrap stuck into the cheese itself. You just want to use it. You could use your bare hands, but we're just going to use the plastic wrap just because it'll make quite a big mess with your bare hands. And again, you're going to be rolling this in your cheese and green onion and pecan mixture. We still have to grate up the pecans for it, but as you can see, it is as you can see, we've pretty much shaped it into a round ball. It doesn't have to be perfect, you just want it rounded. And then all I'm going to do is fold this back over the cheese like this and tuck it under, and there is our cheese ball. This we're going to let sit in the fridge overnight, so then that way all the flavors will come together and develop just a bit more. So while we set that aside and put the plastic wrap up, let's get that out of the way. We're going to go ahead and get our pecans chopped. Now the pecans are for the outside coating, and you could choose to toast them if you'd like. That toast will give it another level of flavor. We are going to just skip that for now, just because we're just going to get them chopped first, and then I'll throw them in the oven later. But you'll just want to toast them at like 325 degrees until they're fragrant. So probably 6 to 8 minutes tops. But we're going to go ahead and chop them first. And you're going to need 2/3 cup of chopped pecans. A lot of times I honestly don't measure when it comes to nuts unless I absolutely have to. I just chop and then I use what I have, and if I have a little bit more, I'll save it for something else. So again, this is about what you're looking for in the consistency of the pecans, because you're going to mix this with the cheese and the green onions, and then you're going to roll it, and we'll do that tomorrow. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my toaster oven and do a really quick toast on these just to give it that extra flavor. And then while those are cooling, we're going to go ahead and work on the yuca. I'm going to go ahead, and I've got my pan and I have my toaster oven warming up. I don't want to turn on the oven just for this little bit. We'll turn the oven on tomorrow when we're doing some of the desserts and things like that, but for this little bit of prep, this is totally fine to use the toaster oven for it. And I'm gonna do 325 degrees. I'm gonna set the timer for 5 minutes and then I'll check it, but usually when they're whole, it'll take 6 to 8 minutes. But as the chopped pecans, I wanna say maybe about 5. You don't wanna burn them, and it is real easy to do. You just wanna cook them long enough until you can start to smell that they are toasting. And so that's what we're looking for. So once the toaster oven is warmed up, we're gonna go ahead and put these in. Okay, so while I was working on the cheese ball, the water did start to boil. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that I salt my water, because you always wanna make sure you do it once the water is actually boiling. So probably about 2 teaspoons of salt is what I put in there. And so what we're gonna be doing now, I am not gonna be making this entire bag for the yuca because I have some in the freezer, but I did want to show you guys how I do them. And so I just find this huge bag of yuca at Walmart. It's about $10 for the bag. Now, we were introduced to yuca fries at a Peruvian restaurant in Atlanta, and I fell in love with them. I have always wanted to try to make them, and they scared me. I don't know why. It's not like I don't have experience in a kitchen. Just sometimes tackling a new project can seem a bit overwhelming because of the different steps. Now that I've done it numerous times, it's really super easy, way easier than for some reason I envisioned it being. But either way, so yuca is a root, and so it's a root vegetable, and so the best way to work with them is you have to boil them first, and that softens the yuca. And then what we're going to do, there's also a root that a lot of times comes inside the yuca that you have to remove. You obviously don't want to bite into that, so I will show you once we get to that point. But we actually prefer these over French fries. Like, we love French fries, I love potatoes, but once I started making the yuca, that is now our favorite. So anytime we do chicken wings, homemade chicken tenders, things like that, I always make yuca fries. They are now in our freezer, and I think we have just a little vacuum seal bag left of French fries. I don't even buy French fries really anymore. I strictly just do the yuca. And so what you'll do, let me grab a scissors, is because I'm not going to do this entire bag, if I did, I would have to either do a much larger pot of water or do it in stages, because trying to cook so much at one time doesn't allow for them all to cook evenly. So I just heard the toaster oven's ready. I'm gonna go put the pecans in, and I'll be right back. Okay, so while waiting on the water to boil, the timer to go off, and the pecans are now done. And obviously there's no smell-o-vision, so you can't tell, but I can smell that this toast on the pecan, and that's what you're looking for. So 5 minutes was just the right amount of time. So I'm going to set these aside and let them cool, and once they are completely cooled, I'm going to go ahead and put it in my bag with my cheese and my green onions, so that way I have it all together for tomorrow. So I'm going to set this aside, put this in the fridge, and we're going to check on the yuca. Okay, so I've got my bag of yuca and my water is boiling. So, and like I said, I'm not going to make the entire bag because I do have some in the freezer. But as you can see, they are, okay, as you can see, they're frozen. Hopefully you can see that. And so we're going to drop those in. And then what I like to do is, obviously because these are frozen, going into a pot of boiling water, it's going to drop the temperature again. So they're not going to, it's not going to start boiling right away. So I like to let it come back to a boil and then start the timer. It's just what I found. However, say all that, a lot of this yuca is super small, so we're going to watch the timing on it and see how they do. So we're probably going to just do maybe half the bag. These are pretty small. Every company is a little bit different. Sometimes you get bigger chunks of yuca and other times it's smaller. So I have filled the pot. That's as far as I'm going to go, and that's about, I'll put one more in there. That's now half the bag. So we're going to let that come to a boil and then set the timer for 15 minutes. The water's not ready yet, so we're going to go ahead and make the guacamole sauce for dipping the yuca fries in. This was, you can usually just have yuca fries plain. When we were at the Peruvian restaurant, that was just a side that they had, and so I tried it and fell in love with it. But basically what it is a cheese sauce, and it's a dipping sauce that's cold. You don't heat this up. I mean, I guess you could, I don't heat it up. So I only use it for the yuca fries. I know there are other uses. I've seen it as I was researching out a recipe that I felt like would meet or be very similar to what we had, and this is what I found. Now I've seen some that are very different, so this is just what I found, tastes just like what I had, and that's why I choose to go with it. So again, I will link it down below. So what this requires is oil. Now the original recipe has vegetable oil. I'm using avocado oil today because it's got a very neutral taste. You can use olive oil, it doesn't matter, I've used both. Also the ají amarillo paste, and I don't know if you guys can see that or not. This I have to get on Amazon because where we live, you can't find it in the stores, but you need this. Evaporated milk, which gotta be careful, I already opened the can. It's got that. Queso fresco is what is the cheese that you're gonna put in there, and then saltine crackers and a little bit of salt. So we're gonna go ahead and get this in here and get this taken care of. So it is 1 cup of evaporated milk. And most cans are typically more than 1 cup. So what I like to do with the little bit that I have left, I keep my half and half in here for my coffee in the morning and for the afternoon as well. I will just go ahead and add in my evaporated milk to it, and just kind of, that way I'm not wasting anything. But evaporated milk is just milk that's had most of the water removed, and so I just shake it up and you can't even tell the difference. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all the ingredients in here so you guys can see it. This is really quick and easy to put together, and then we will store it in the fridge. And again, I serve it cold with the yuca fries. What I will also say is it only lasts about a week in the fridge, and then it will go bad, so it doesn't last too long, but you should be able to eat quite a bit of it up before it goes bad. Okay, so the recipe says for 8 ounces of queso fresco, but I have 10, and so if I don't have a need for any more of it, I will just go ahead and add all of it to there, because I don't need it for anything else, and I don't want it to go to waste. I do like to try to crumble it up a little bit more when I add it in if I can. It doesn't have to be completely crumbled because obviously the blender is going to do all the work, but I have actually found that it does help it along a little bit if I can break it up and get it in there. All right, looks like our yuca is starting to boil, so I'm gonna go ahead and set the timer. Okay, timer has been set for 15 minutes. Now I'm gonna go ahead and measure out the ají amarillo paste. Sorry, it's such a mouthful for me to say that, but it's gonna be a half a cup. Now usually what I found is I can get about 2 recipes out of 1 jar, and I say about 2 because sometimes I need to tap into the second jar to do it. You can always half this recipe if you needed to. I just make a full one because our friends love it so much that a lot of times I will send them home with some, so then that way they can use it on whatever they would like. So half a cup of the paste. And again, this is what's going to give it its color, help give it its amazing flavor. Of course, the cheese comes out as well. So, and I believe I've seen this served on rice and other dishes. But again, it's a cheese sauce. I just prefer it cold for dipping on the fries, but you could use it for a variety of things. Now I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons, of avocado oil. Again, you can use any kind that you have on hand. This is was what I had readily available. Okay, and so from here you're also going to add in 6 saltine crackers. Now I know that seems weird, but it's a binder for the sauce. I will sometimes use gluten-free crackers so our daughter can enjoy it, but for this video I wanted to just do it as the recipe calls, and then I can always make more for her later. And then just gonna do a pinch of salt. That's probably a half a teaspoon worth of salt. You can taste it and then adjust as needed. So, And I am just going to blend this on high for a few minutes until it becomes smooth. Okay. Alright, so I'm just going to give it a quick taste to make sure I don't need to add any additional salt to it. Perfect. And it's super smooth. And this is what you're looking for. And as you can see, it'll pour. I'm going to go get containers to put it in to store it. But it is super smooth. It is thick. Believe it or not, those 6 crackers help bind it together. But this is what you're looking for. And then again, you'll chill this. And then I just serve this on the side, which we will get into tomorrow once we get the yuca fries all set. I just like to store it in whatever you'd like. I just have some mason jars that I like to store it in. And you can see how thick it is when it pours out. And so it'll stay that thick as it stays cold. Again, I know there are other uses for it. This is just the only thing I do with it. So I know I've seen it served over rice because that is a very popular thing to have in a Peruvian restaurant. So you can explore, what else? I'm trying to do this left-handed. I'm not really left-handed, so bear with me. Let me switch here. A little bit harder for me to do it that way. So you can kind of research what else you can do with it. I don't want to tell you one thing and it be wrong because again, I only make this for the fries, and so I don't want to give you incorrect information on it. And so I'm just going to get this little bit cleaned off just so that way it doesn't get gross at all while it's in the jar. Okay. And then that's it. Put the lid on, stick it in the fridge, and you are set to go. So outside of doing the yuca, I believe that's going to be the last of what we're going to prep today. Now that the sauce is done, I'm going to put this in the fridge. We've got about 7 minutes on the yuca. I'm going to check it because again, a lot of them were really thin. And so if they're already soft and tender, I'm going to pull them out. It's easy to overcook the yuca. I've tried a variety of different ways and I've just learned to work with it and have actually found that it still works out. The yuca fries are like, they remind me of a McDonald's French fry to a point. Don't hate me because I said that. I know a lot of people don't like McDonald's, but where you've got the crunchy exterior and a very soft interior of the fry. That is what the yuca reminds me of. So if done properly, it'll be nice and crunchy on the outside when it's fried, and then it'll be soft on the inside, and it has a wonderful flavor to it. It's very mild, but again, just tastes so much better than an actual French fry, in just my opinion. So, but I wanted to share that with you guys because again, our friends that are coming over, I really like them as well, especially this wakajina sauce. And so I wanted to go ahead and make that to go with our meal for tomorrow. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up while the yuca is finishing up, and then I'll show you guys the next steps on what you do with that, and then that'll be it for today. And then I will be back in the kitchen tomorrow morning to finish up the rest of this, so that way we can enjoy our evening with our friends. Okay, I finished loading the dishwasher, getting everything cleaned up just in time for the yuca fries to go off. So now that they are done, I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off, and we're going to go ahead and get them drained. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get them in here. I'm going to just do it slowly. I have a motion sensor thing, so the steam always sets it off. But I do want the cold water running, because what I like to do is I like to stop the cooking process, sorry, all the steam, of the yuca. And so what I'm going to do is let cold water run over it to stop it, because you can, I don't know if you can see in the video, but I will show you as we get a little bit closer. You want it soft, but you also don't want it to turn to complete mush. And so, but by chilling it, even for just a few minutes, will help slow down the cooking process, because again, it's hot and it's steam, so it does want to keep cooking. And so we're just going to run some cold water over it for a few minutes, and then I will show you what I do with the yuca after this. Okay, so I've spent a few minutes running cold water over them, so now they're done. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the pot that I had, let them continue to drain in it just for a few minutes while I go ahead and get my cookie sheet and my parchment paper and stuff, so we can go ahead and get these cut and ready to freeze them. Okay, so I've got my cookie sheet, and then I also have my pre-cut parchment sheets. You can use whatever you have. I just like these because it's easy to grab and go. I do have the rolls of parchment that I will use, but that's just so much easier. So I'm gonna go ahead, and these are still warm, and so we want to be careful too with handling them because they can be really hot still. So this gets a little messy, but I will show you what. So I'm just going to take my towel and put it under. I just grabbed the small cutting board. I may regret this decision. Usually I use my big one, but we're just going to start with the small one and see how it goes. And we'll see if we can't make this work for us. Again, I'm not doing, wait, there you guys go. Okay, I think you guys can see it now. I'm not doing the biggest batch I've ever made, so I don't really necessarily need it. So when you're looking at the yuca, not all of them, but some of them will have this root. That is what you want to remove. Another reason why I just have the towel here, because I'll be able to kind of wipe my hands. Obviously this will go in the wash after I'm done. But I like to take it and cut the yuca into like fry shapes if I can. Now, I will say, you can see it's kind of soft, a little mushy. I don't throw that away unless it's just beyond repair. What I have found is when I do them like this and then they freeze and we fry them, those little edges that are kind of mushy get nice and crispy, and those are like the best ones. So some will look really good like this. Again, there's the root. Not all of them have roots, so I don't know if some of them just fell out in their processing part of it, but like something like this, it kind of fell in my hand, and that's fine for a fry. So I'll take this one. I'll just double check that there's no root left and I don't feel one. So I'm just going to cut this in half, and then it's kind of hard for you guys to see right this second for the camera, but there they are. So I'm going to go ahead and cut and fill this tray and get these done, and then once they're done, I'm going to go ahead and put them in the freezer and freeze them individually on the tray, because what that does is it helps them from getting so stuck to each other when they go into a bag in the freezer. So I'm going to process this, and then we're going to go ahead and get these done. And then, like I said, that is, other than putting the pecans in the bag, we are done with our prep for today. Tomorrow will be a busy day in the kitchen, but it should go fairly smoothly because we've got some easy but delicious food items, for dishes, I should say, for our get together tomorrow. So now sometimes I will run my knife. If it feels like there might be a root there, I'll run my knife along it and see. Sometimes it's just the yuca itself is still a little stiff, but there is actually no root still there. Now I know that these are different sizes. You have one like this size and one that's this size. That's okay. Fry them up. It doesn't matter. Now when you go to a restaurant and order them, they are all the same size and they're perfectly done, but of course they're manufactured to be that way. These are at home yuca fries. They don't always are uniformed. They don't always look the prettiest, but man, do they taste good. And I can promise you, no one cares. And so they are really, really good and definitely worth making. They do take a little bit of work, but this is why we're doing it the day before, is to get this done. But again, I'm keep these on hand now, so that's why we're not doing as big of a batch. But once I've got one layer done like this, and I leave them so they've got space between them, I'm going to clean my hands, but I will take another parchment paper and put it on top, and I will just stack until I am done with the fries. Okay, and sometimes you are going to have a stubborn root or that's in there. If for any reason it does not want to come out, you can cut it or you can just toss it. Sometimes they can be a bit on the stubborn side, but for the most part they all come out really easily. Alright, and sometimes when I have stuff left over, which I will, that is a little bit kind of almost looks mushy, I just push it together and I just form kind of my own fry if I can, and then I just leave it and it'll freeze together, and then it'll fry just like ones that you pull out that are already ready to go. Again, some of these were really small, kind of odd shaped. So even though these just were little chunks, I'm just going to leave them, and I still am going to freeze them. They'll just be a little bit oddball shaped, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. And one thing I will say is I've done it before where I've cooled them a little bit with the water and prepped, and then I have also done it where I've let them cool completely. I will say that it is actually warm, even though they're messy, which these aren't that bad. My hands aren't really that bad, but they can be a little messy to make. They are actually easier to work with when they're warm, especially with trying to get that root out of the yuca. So we'll give you that little tip. It is actually a lot easier. Now just be careful, like this one, it's still a little stiff and I have to get the root out. So just be careful with your knife that you're not pushing towards you and then wind up, you know, cutting yourself. Just go slow, and if need be, just, you know, if you can't get it out and it's tough, just toss it. Don't worry about it. You usually don't have a lot of waste when it comes to making the yuca fries. You'll have a little bit, but you won't have a whole lot. And I'm just leaving them sit right here only because I only have a few more left, and instead of washing my hands and then pulling out the paper, I'll just get them ready and then I'll do it. And this is what I was talking about. See the mushy? Don't worry about that. That is actually going to get super crispy in the fryer, and that's going to be really, really good. All right, I feel like I've done about all I can do in here. So I'm going to toss this, clean my hands, and then we'll do another layer. Pull out one more. And then I'm just going to spread these out because mine likes to curl as soon as I pull it out of the box. So I'm just going to spread those out a little bit. So again, if you're looking for something wonderful, do these. If you're looking for perfection, don't do these. Because again, they're going to come in all shapes and sizes, but I'm telling you, the flavor is amazing. And like I said, my entire family prefers the yuca fries now over regular french fries. So they are worth that little bit of time. And again, we don't eat them all in one sitting either. This is usually several meals worth that I make. But I always like to keep them in stock in the freezer. So take that, put that over there. All right, let me get this into the laundry room. Okay, there we go. There they are. So I'm going to go ahead and stick these in the freezer. Now you can choose to cover them if you want to. I don't. For the initial freeze, and the reason why is they're only going to be in there for a few hours, and then I'm going to move them into a freezer bag or a vacuum sealed bag depending on which one I want to use. A lot of times if we are going to eat them right away, I will just put them in a freezer bag. But if I am building up a storage or just spending a day doing a lot of meal prep, I should say, and I want to have them for later, I will then let them freeze completely, put them in vacuum seal bags, and then vacuum seal them so no ice develops on the yuca fries. So we're going to get this cleaned up, and then we are going to get the pecans taken care of, and then that will be it for today, and then I will be back in the kitchen tomorrow. Okay, all cleaned up from that, and so pecans are nice and cool, so I am going to go ahead and measure out 2/3 cup because that's what's going to go into the bag, and then anything extra I'm going to set aside just in case I feel like when we go to roll the cheese ball it needs a little bit more, so that way I don't have to toast and chop them up again. So go ahead and measure out 2/3 cup, and we might actually get really close, so we may not have, we'll have some extra. Okay, I feel like based on 2/3 cup, my handle went missing, or fell off I should say. With that little bit, I'm just going to go ahead and put all of it into the bag, and then we'll just have extra and it will be okay. And then what I will do is tomorrow we will put this in a bowl, and then we will whisk it all together, and then just because the cheese obviously sticks to itself, so we'll want to stir it all together so that way we can roll the cheese ball. Okay, it's been a little over 6 hours and the chicken is done. It is super tender, so all I'm going to do, I just pulled it out of the crock pot while it's still hot. I am just going to shred it. Now there will be, because it wasn't trimmed, there may be a few pieces that you may need to just pull out and toss aside, but for the most part all you're going to do is just shred this chicken, and it's best to do when hot because it pulls apart really easily. And then I'm going to let it cool, and this is what we will use tomorrow. We won't be using all of it for the chicken tacos, but we will be using some of it, and the rest I just stick either in the fridge and we eat on it for the week, or I'll put some in the freezer and then we'll pull it out as we need protein. And this chicken is really mild in flavor. That's why I like the salsa verde. I've done it with salsa and I feel like it put a little too much salsa flavor through the chicken. The salsa verde keeps it really mild, makes it super moist and tender. And it does infuse some flavor, but it's mild enough where it can go with a variety of different things. So that is pretty much it. So we're gonna let this cool, put this in the fridge, and be back in the morning. Alrighty, and that is it for today's prep. So I will see you guys early in the morning back in the kitchen so we can go ahead and work on the rest of the menu. So thanks for joining me for part 1 of my Super Bowl video. I had to split this into 2 or it would be way too long, but here is a glimpse at the food that you will be seeing in part 2. I will go ahead and make sure that once both videos are uploaded, I will edit so you can see part 2 at the end of this video. I will also make sure to link it below. But I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you again in part 2.